growing up and watching my stepfather be a violent alcoholic, I went through a phase there in my early years where I was determined I will never be like that. I will never drink booze. I don't want to be one of these kind of guys. But especially when I started playing in bands, in rock and roll and blues bands, I sort of loosened up with let's have a beer at the gig. I'll have a couple of shots. Oh, let's smoke some weed. And it really, in the 60s, just coming out of high school and playing in the band, there was almost, I hate to say it, but there was almost an innocence to, we're gonna smoke some weed, maybe we're gonna take some LSD on the weekend, and we're gonna play a gig for somebody. It didn't seem all sort of as debauched as life became, but it gradually turned into a lot more drinking than really it should have been. But when I moved to California to be a guitar player when I was 22, I discovered cocaine. I discovered heroin. It became a whole other thing, and it became very destructive and very sort of overwhelming. The search for the drugs became more important really than the playing. I sort of lost sight of the music when I look back, and the gigs just became an excuse to party up. And so that lasted a while, and I got heavily into it, and I'm the first to admit it. It got in the way of the music. I lost sight of my goal of trying to be the best musician I could be, and instead I became a drug dealer and a drug taker. All the stories are out there. Anyone who's followed me knows the stories. Now, the heroin, I stopped taking heroin in 1977. I went on a methadone clinic where they kind of wean you down. And the day they told me I was clean of the heroin, I never went back and have never done it since. But then I did 10 more years of cocaine and alcohol, a lot of both. But I did steer clear of the heroin because the addiction thing, the physical addiction, where I went through withdrawal quite a few times in the years I was a heroin addict, and it was terrible. Not something I would ever want to go through again. And I stuck with cocaine and alcohol, and thought I was doing okay, but I was completely out of control. The self-loathing was pretty heavy. And that's still something that requires constant work to get past. I've asked John Mayall many times, I've asked him, how did you put up with my insane behavior? And he's given me two answers. His first answer, which I loved, he said, there was a certain humor to it. But then the serious answer he's given me, he said, no matter how loaded you got, Walter, you always seemed able to play the music. And he said that if you'd gotten to the point where you came out on stage in my band and could not play my music, I'd have sent you home the next day. So evidently I was always able to play even when I was wasted. I can tell you that I went through a phase of getting sober. I had the bar band in Huntington Beach, and for a while I had the great drummer Richie Hayward playing with me from Little Feat. And he was sober at the time, and he used to talk to me all the time, like, what are you doing, man? You can play great, but then you get all loaded up here, and you're like a clown up here. I respected him so much, and I remember sitting down once with John Mayall in a restaurant that someone was serving us a dinner, and I said, John, I've had this epiphany from the higher power that if I would show this higher power the courage and the fortitude to stop what I'm doing and get sober and to concentrate on being an artist and concentrate on my music and my creativity and stop with the party. If I could summon up the courage and the strength to do that and face it, I would be given the desires of my heart. And I remember telling him that, and I was in tears. And he just said, well, Walter, I think you should, that's what you need to do then. But it all came to a head in East Berlin, Germany, when we were in a hotel with Santana and his band. And this story's been out there for a long time, but basically I sat with Carlos for 3 days, and he gave me a book to read, and we discussed life, we discussed music, we discussed being serious about your music. We discussed we had so many great conversations in those 3 days. He gave me the book to read, and the book was called Discover Your Possibilities, and it was by the Reverend Robert Schuller. I still have the book. And I went up to my room, I read the book in a couple of hours, and then the next 2 days, Carlos and I talked, and I went to John Mayall and I said, you will never see me high again. So he was a definite role model for me in all of this. But thank God the man didn't just throw me out of his band. He gave me the chance. He put up with me, but he gave me the chance to grow in his band. He gave me the chance to come to terms with myself, to be able to look in the mirror and say, I have to change who I am. I have to become the person that's in there hiding. I have to become somebody that, say, my mom can be proud of and not ashamed of, And so he gave me that opportunity, and it's been, like I say, since 1987 now. I've been stone sober. And everything changed. Everything changed.
I'm always gonna be, yes, I'm always gonna